These fishing methods are illegal and can get you in trouble.
In this video, I'm going to test some of the most banned and most brutal methods of catching fish. Together, we'll find out which of them actually harm fish and aquatic ecosystems, and which ones may have been banned by mistake or unfairly. I made this video to show what you should not do, and why methods like these can be harmful to nature. And we'll start with one of the most damaging fishing methods out there. Inside this cardboard box was a fishing net. This type of gear is completely prohibited for recreational fishing, and using it can result in hefty fines or even jail time.
It's a good thing there are nobody at the pond who could report us.
The design of a fishing net is extremely simple. Floats are attached along the top, while weights are sewn into the bottom line, allowing the net to stay fully extended underwater. We're going to set it out now and see how it works in practice.
Of course, this is just a joke.
I won't be doing this in a pond, since nets are considered one of the most harmful fishing methods. Instead, we'll clearly demonstrate why in a swimming pool. Once submerged, the net literally creates an invisible barrier that fish are not always able to avoid. When a fish comes into contact with the net, it instinctively starts struggling to escape, only becoming even more tangled. The method is almost completely non-selective and catches everything: large fish, small fish, and even rare species in very large numbers. On top of that, fish don't always remain unharmed and suitable for release. The net material is fairly abrasive, and in some cases, fish can suffer injuries. Another issue is that nets affect more than just fish. Other aquatic animals, such as ducks and various birds, can also become trapped. Some people might say, just use a net with larger mesh and catch fish without any problem. But even then, the disadvantages far outweigh the benefits, which is why this method remains banned. If you ever come across gear like this in a pond, it's best to remove it and report it to the authorities, or dispose of it yourself so nobody can use it again. Our banned method rating for this gear is 10 out of 10. The next fishing method is also net-based and very similar to the previous one. I'm talking about this piece of gear right here.
I already found fishing rigs like this.
It's essentially the same net, except a piece of wood is used as a float, while a metal bar replaces the weight. Since the net itself is significantly smaller, it shouldn't lead to large-scale overfishing. Because of that, we'll be testing it on a private body of water after obtaining permission from the owner and getting approval to film there. Ideally, you need a boat to use this type of gear. We brought an inflatable boat with us. Let's get it ready for the water. We take the trap and head farther away from shore to place it in a deeper section of the pond. To make sure we don't lose it later, we tie on a rope with a piece of foam attached. We lower the gear into the water, where it opens up and remains in its working position. Even though this is considered poaching gear, you shouldn't expect instant results. It takes time for fish to move into the area where it's been placed. The next day, I went back out to check it. Let's pull it up. And it's not empty. This is probably the first time I've been completely unhappy about a catch. 2 fish got trapped inside. Let's get them out as quickly as possible. Fortunately, neither fish was injured, and we safely released them back into the pond. The screen net turned out to be an effective piece of gear, and in some ways, less harmful than a traditional fishing net. However, it can still cause damage to nature. Large-scale overfishing is unlikely, but fish can still be injured by the thin mesh. I'd rate this fishing method 8 out of 10. Inside the long package was yet another bent fishing device. Let's start assembling it. We spread this piece apart so the rods cross each other, then secure them in place. Next, we insert the steel rods. It ends up looking something like helicopter blades.
Helicopter, helicopter!
After that, we attach the mesh panel. The final result is a lift net. It even resembles a spider in appearance. But to use it, we still need to build a lifting mechanism. We find a suitable branch on the shore and cut it into a stick like this. We'll also need a long straight pole. The net is tied to the pole, and a second long piece of rope is attached slightly higher up. In theory, this type of gear shouldn't harm fish, since the catch doesn't become tangled in the mesh. It simply ends up resting on top of it. We then pull the rope and lift the net together with the fish. It's basically a kind of underwater trampoline. We drive the pole into the ground near the fishing spot, lower the spider net into the water, and place the pole onto the support. Now all that's left to do is wait. I think 15 minutes should be enough. Let's lift it up. And the net is empty, no fish. All we managed to scoop up was some vegetation. Let's try again. This time there was a small fish on the mesh, but at the last moment it slipped back into the water and escaped. Honestly, I'm starting to lose faith in this fishing method. Let's give it one more chance. This time, a fish was caught again, but it didn't get away. More importantly, the test caused it absolutely no harm, and it calmly swam away afterward.
It's not so easy to fish with this tackle.
However, some people attach bait directly to the net to attract more fish to the area. In that case, serious overfishing can become a real issue. For example, we immediately caught 2 fish at once. This method is definitely banned for a reason, but it causes very little injury to fish. And if additional bait isn't used to attract them, large-scale overfishing is unlikely. Our rating for this fishing method is 6 out of 10. Next up is a fishing method that was incredibly popular at one point, and videos featuring it were spreading absolutely everywhere. It's a cast net. This fishing method is also banned in many countries because it falls into the category of net fishing gear. Let's take a look at how this gear is designed. Here we have a wrist strap for securing it to your arm, a rope, a self-tightening plastic mechanism, weights that activate the mechanism, and the net itself.
Everything is dirt cheap and low quality.
First, let's see how it works. The net is folded in a special way and thrown much like a frisbee. While flying through the air, it opens up, expands significantly in size, and covers a surprisingly large area. At the same time, fish are not supposed to become tangled in the net or get injured by it. Well then, let's go test this method in practice. First cast. As soon as the net reaches the bottom, we immediately pull it back up. There's nothing inside. We'll keep trying to catch something. Cast after cast went by, but there was still no catch.
Algae are causing a lot of trouble.
So I decided to move into the boat. I paddled farther away from the vegetation and tried fishing directly from the water. Let's cast again. And once again, nothing. Another cast. And finally, there's a fish inside. Honestly, it wasn't nearly as easy as it might look from the outside. We release the fish back into the water and continue fishing, constantly changing locations in an attempt to find new concentrations of fish. A little later, I managed to catch 2 fish with a single throw. We move again and try once more. And this time, the net managed to cover 4 fish at once. As the test showed, this gear is indeed extremely effective. At the same time, fish suffer almost no injuries and can be safely released back into the water.
This fishing creek catches too many fish.
However, that high efficiency is exactly the main problem with this method. If gear like this ends up in the hands of irresponsible people, fish populations in a pond can decline dramatically. Other than that, I don't have any major complaints about this fishing method, but because of its effectiveness, it still gets a score of 7 out of 10. Throughout my life, I've held all kinds of fishing rods in my hands, but this is the first time I've ever seen an electric fishing rod in person. This is one of the most heavily banned fishing methods, and you're about to see why. An electric fishing rod consists of a landing net, a power source with a converter, and 2 electrical contacts. The negative contact is placed in the water separately, while the landing net itself serves as the positive contact. All it takes is pressing a button and the device is ready to operate.
Which we normally would be doing.
I've seen enough videos featuring devices like this. Honestly, it looks pretty terrifying. Still, we're going to demonstrate how it works. Not in a pond, but in an aquarium and not with a real fish. We lower the contacts into the water, press the button, and an electric field forms between them. Any fish entering the affected area becomes disoriented and starts moving toward the source of the current, making it extremely easy to catch. The method is brutal and affects everything indiscriminately. Large fish, small fish, and even fish eggs. That's exactly why it's considered one of the most destructive fishing methods ever created. If the contacts are brought closer together, the electrical discharge can even be seen with the naked eye. In essence, it works very much like a standard stun gun. Even the camera started picking up interference while the device was operating. Still, we decided to measure the voltage. We connected the probes of a multimeter, pressed the button, and within a split second, completely destroyed the device. As it turned out, this method is dangerous not only for fish, but also for electronics, and even for the fishermen if they accidentally shock themselves. The light bulb proved to be more durable than the multimeter. It survived the discharge and even started glowing. There's also another unusual use for a device like this. If you stick 2 nails into the ground and run current through them, earthworms begin crawling out of the soil on their own. That's probably the only situation where an electric fishing rod can provide any real benefit, helping gather bait for traditional fishing. But an electric fishing rod absolutely does not belong on a body of water. In my opinion, this is one of the most harmful and dangerous fishing methods out there. That's why the electric fishing rod receives a perfect 10 out of 10 on the banned method scale. Inside this small box is a piece of fishing gear capable of causing enormous damage to nature.
This is not ordinary hook.
It's a giant hook and it's designed for snagging fish. Let's see how it works. Though not on an actual body of water, so we don't harm anything. Let's imagine this platform is the bottom of a pond and fish are swimming above it. To use this rig, all you need is a regular fishing rod. The gear is tied to the fishing line and then a standard cast is made. And that's where things get interesting. Once the rig reaches the bottom, you have to make sharp, powerful jerks with the rod. During these jerks, the hook moves chaotically along the bottom and can randomly snag any fish that happens to be nearby.
This method is horrible.
It's hard to call this fishing in the traditional sense. The fish doesn't bite the bait, it simply gets hooked on any part of its body. After being caught this way, releasing the fish without consequences is highly unlikely. Moreover, absolutely any fish that happens to be nearby can become a victim. And because of the large hook, the risk of serious injury is extremely high. For that reason, this method receives our maximum rating, 10 out of 10. The next fishing method should, in theory, be much safer than the previous one. Let's take it out of the package. This is a cylindrical trap. Most traps of this type are prohibited. Today we have a store-bought version, and its design is fairly simple. A steel frame is covered with mesh, and special entrances are located on the sides. Fish can enter without much difficulty, but getting back out is considerably harder. There are several ways to use a trap like this. The first is setting it from a boat in still water. We head out into deeper water. Place a bit of bait inside to attract fish and then lower the trap. Before doing so, we attach something that floats so it will be easier to locate later. The second option is using it in flowing water. In that case, bait is usually not placed inside because the current would quickly wash it away. Here, fish simply enter the trap on their own. We leave the traps overnight. The next morning, I went to check whether anything had been caught. And yes, the trap placed in the pond had 2 huge fish inside. Just look at how beautiful this fish is. Honestly, this is the first time I've ever held one like this in my hands. The trap caused absolutely no harm to the fish, so we safely release it back into the water. As for the trap in the river, it managed to catch several smaller fish. As the test showed, the trap really does work. At the same time, the risk of overfishing is relatively low, and any fish that are caught can be released without injury. So far, this is the gentlest of all the banned fishing methods we've tested. That's why this trap receives just 5 out of 10. Next comes another trap-based fishing method. This piece of gear looks very similar to a regular umbrella. The mesh is finer here, and the frame is built almost exactly like a real umbrella. This trap has significantly more entrances than the previous one, and it's designed not for catching fish, but for catching crayfish.
I never caught crayfish before, especially not with method like this.
We grab the trap, get into the boat, and head to the spot where we'll place it. Crayfish are natural scavengers, so something with a strong smell is typically used as bait. A piece of spoiled meat or fish works perfectly. Let's quickly put the bait inside because standing next to it is already unbearable. After that, we lower the trap into the water. Like most traps of this kind, it doesn't work instantly. Crayfish are also most active at night, so we leave the trap until morning. After a night passes, we head back to check the results. and it definitely wasn't empty inside. The smell of spoiled chicken attracted 5 crayfish at once. Honestly, that already seems like quite a lot to me, especially considering that crayfish populations have declined dramatically in many countries due to excessive harvesting. That's why we release every crayfish we caught back into the water. Let them continue growing and reproducing. The trap itself doesn't injure the catch, which is definitely a positive. But if you imagine similar traps being used on a massive scale in every body of water, the consequences for crayfish populations could be quite severe. That's why this trap receives 8 out of 10 from us. Now let's get back to fishing specifically for fish. We ordered this piece of gear right here. Many people might wonder, why is it even banned? At first glance, there doesn't seem to be anything prohibited about it. Just a regular sinker, a rubber shock absorber, fishing line, and hooks. But the reason for the ban lies in the number of hooks. Manufacturers very often equip these rigs with more hooks than regulations allow, which can lead to excessive harvesting of fish. To test this setup, I headed to a large river. We unwind the rig and measure out the required length of line. After that, we untwist the sinker and make a cast. Then we secure the line holder on the shore with something heavy. Just enough to make sure the rubber doesn't pull the entire rig into the water. Now we pull on the line and bring the hooks back to shore. As you can imagine, nothing is going to bite on empty hooks. Today we'll be fishing with corn, maggots, and worms. After baiting the hooks, we gently release the line and the rubber automatically pulls the rig back to the exact fishing spot. Now all that's left to do is wait. You can also keep an eye on the line going into the water. If it starts twitching, it means there's a bite. After about 10 minutes, I decided to check the rig, and one of the hooks wasn't empty. A very rare and beautiful fish had taken the bait. Whoever correctly names this fish first in the comments will get a like from me. We didn't notice any serious overfishing potential with this setup. The maximum we managed to catch was 2 fish. Honestly, I actually enjoyed fishing with it. The rig is quite interesting and convenient to use. And it's worth mentioning that nothing prevents you from reducing the number of hooks to the legal limit and using this setup completely legally. However, if we evaluate the gear exactly as it is sold, it gets a score of 5 out of 10 from me.
You can buy this fishing rig in the store.
Now we're going to build the next one ourselves. We cut 2 pieces from a dry wooden board, one larger and one smaller. Then, using a sharp knife, we shave down the edges so the pieces become much thinner. This is necessary so they interact better with the flow of water later on. We connect both pieces together with screws. 2 nuts are attached to the larger section to serve as weights, and 2 hooks are screwed into the smaller section. If the current is flowing to your left, you attach the fishing line to the hook on the right. If the current is flowing to your right, you attach it to the hook on the left. Next, we take a line holder with heavy fishing line and attach it to our construction. Most often, this type of gear is called a planer board or simply a fishing boat. After that, we unwind the line and attach predator lures that work well with a steady retrieve. The result is something that looks like a strange underwater garland. As you've probably already guessed, the reason for the ban is the same as with the previous method, the excessive number of hooks. We place the rig on the water and lightly tension the line. The construction begins cutting through the water and moves against the current on its own without any motors or batteries. We send the planer farther away from shore and walk along the shoreline with it almost like a dog on a leash. Meanwhile, the lures move through the water and attract predatory fish. Let's see if we can catch something. To be honest, I had absolutely no idea how I was supposed to detect a bite with this setup. The sensitivity is practically non-existent, but at one point I noticed something following one of the lures. Let's bring it in. One of the lures had been aggressively attacked by a predator. It turned out to be this little fish right here. We quickly unhook it and release it back into the water. Then we continue the test. I wasn't able to catch 5 fish at once. During the entire experiment, only 1 more fish of the same species ended up on the hook. It's hard to call that overfishing, although that may simply be due to the body of water itself. In places where fish populations are much larger, this setup could indeed become overly effective. Overall, I found this method quite interesting and enjoyable. The main thing, just like with the previous rig, is not to exceed the legal number of hooks. That's why the planer board receives the same score from me, 5 out of 10 on the banned method scale. After all, these two setups are very similar in many ways. Most of these methods were banned for good reason. Fish either get injured or are caught in excessively large numbers, which can eventually lead to population declines. That's why it's best not to fish using methods like these. And even if you're fishing legally, try to release your catch whenever possible. Also, from time to time, help restock bodies of water with new fish, just as I did as a sign of gratitude for the opportunity to film this video for you.